On July 13th at 11:30 in the morning, the Richmond Road Baptist Church erupted in gunfire. In less than 2 minutes, 3 people were dead, 3 more critically injured, and among the dead was Guy House, a man who'd gone out that morning with every intention of killing as many people as the magazine in his firearm would allow. A church, a place of peace, acceptance, and worship. 1 second, the pews were quiet. Families, kids, elders, and parents all seated under the canopy of safety, and the next moment, their world exploded in blood, madness, and horror. Who was Guy Edward House, and what is it that makes people like him walk out of their houses with the sole intention of killing as many people as possible, even though they've never met, never seen before, and who have done him no harm? Mass shootings are a disease that only spreads in the United States, it seems. No other country in the world sees their schools, churches, and public gatherings targeted by their own citizens. Why? Why is this only a problem here and nowhere else in the world? Is it in the air, the water, or is it some macabre belief that's somewhere been wired into the DNA of those that wish to be immortalized in blood? Let's get into it and find out, shall we? You know me. I like to start at the beginning, with the background of every case. So I guess we need to look at House first. Maybe we can see where things went wrong to try to unravel what led him to July the 13th. Because House, like so many others who've done what he's done, is a story of warnings that should have been highlighted long ago. We could have prevented this from happening, if only someone was paying attention. Not much is known about House's childhood and early 20s, but he sure had an alarming rap sheet from his 30s onward. Illegal firearm possessions, drug charges, and a slew of assaults and domestic abuse reports, not to mention repeated violations on his parole for testing positive for drugs and carrying firearms that were unlicensed. His family reports that he's always been erratic, emotionally unstable, and, to use their words, that he was battling demons. It sounds like House was already mentally unstable long before the drug addiction came along. Methamphetamines just exacerbated an already volatile man's extreme outbursts and centered a long-growing sense of paranoia. A paranoia that was fixated on his ex-partner. House's ex, whose identity has been withheld for her and her child's privacy, had 3 children with him, but the 2 separated some years prior to 2025. A lot of their legal and personal history hasn't been disclosed yet, understandable since there are kids from this union that are now suffering the deeply scarring effects of their father's sins. Keeping them as anonymous as possible really is the best thing that we can hope for now. We do know that his ex had some form of court order against House, keeping him from seeing his children. Understandable, seeing that he had a long history of violence towards others, a short temper, and was involved in drugs and firearm possession that quite frankly should have landed him in jail several times over. House was dangerous, plain and simple, and he was mentally unstable. That much was starkly clear. After their split, House had 2 other girlfriends, both of whom claimed that he was aggressive, physically abusive, and that he'd stalked and harassed both of them after they'd broken up with him. House was described as extremely paranoid and obsessed with his long-past ex-partner and her refusal to let him see his children. The last of his girlfriends broke up with him on June the 4th, after a fight that resulted in some kind of physical altercation and threats, for which he was sent a court summons on the 14th of June. And here's where House really started going off the rails. He returned to her house that same day, broke in, stole 2 of her firearms, her car, and threatened to kill her. She went to police and filed an emergent restraining order, but other than that, there was almost no intervention from the authorities. This isn't just negligent, this was downright dangerous. Here they had a man who'd attacked his girlfriend and on the same day went back, stole thousands of dollars worth of items, including 2 firearms and a car. That man was legally not allowed to have any kind of firearm on him thanks to his previous record. That's a felony right there. And on top of that, he'd attacked the girlfriend twice in quick succession, and she'd given authorities all the evidence they needed to prove that he'd been following her for at least a month. Every single move made by House on the 4th of June should have resulted in an immediate arrest, but instead, police decided to wait for nearly 2 weeks until he arrived for his court date to charge him with the theft, firearm possession, and breaking and entering, leaving the terrified ex completely unprotected. She was quoted as saying, "I felt like I was being hunted and police weren't helping me." Ma'am, you're absolutely right. She done everything right. She made the reports, giving them more than enough proof that House was armed, dangerous, and that he threatened her life on multiple occasions. She asked for help, begged for it, and yet her life, clearly in the crossfire of a madman, was not deemed important enough for police to get him off the streets. They didn't even bother to retrieve her car or her firearms, because apparently it's perfectly cool to just let criminals with violent past roam around enjoying other people's private property. What did they think was going to happen? That he was just going to waltz into that court and go to jail willingly after they'd practically handed him a week and a half, guns, and a car on a silver platter? We can argue about mental health, drugs, and whatnot for as long as we like here, but no one can deny that if police did their job the first time, 3 people wouldn't be dead today. House knew that if he went to court, that he was going to go to jail for a long time. He was never going to see the mother of his children that he'd been obsessed with for years. He was never going to see the children he lost the right to see thanks to his criminal and dangerous behavior ever again, and he certainly wouldn't get any of the substances that he was addicted to either. The chances that he was even going to arrive for the court date are virtually zero. He was never planning on facing justice, and for now at least, he was going to go about his life, hoping that the system would ignore him for as long as possible. For 9 days, that's exactly what happened. He was driving that stolen car that police hadn't even reported yet, like he didn't have a care in the world. At 11:45 on the morning of June the 13th, House was a passenger in that very stolen car driving on a road that runs alongside the Bluegrass Airport. The driver has not yet been named, but authorities have confirmed that this man probably had nothing to do with any of House's actions, nor did he have any knowledge that House was ever armed at the time. The police officer, Jude Remillion, who had been employed by the Kentucky State Police for only 3 years, pulled over the truck like any other traffic stop. The driver was completely compliant and didn't even pose resistance when Remillion pointed out that he wasn't wearing a safety belt. While the driver was getting his driver's license out, House whipped out a pistol and shot Remillion. The driver was so close to that muzzle that I wouldn't be surprised if the bullet singed his nose hairs.
Do you have a social? What is it?
Remillion was shot twice in the leg, a miracle, given that House fired off 4 rounds at close range. The trooper somehow managed to run from the car on that injured leg while radioing for help. The driver, realizing what House had done, got out of the car and covered his head in fear while House got into the driver's seat to drive away. Remillion couldn't have been luckier that day. Just then, 2 nurses happened to drive by and took charge of the situation, instructing several other civilians to call an ambulance, to administer water, and to keep pressure on his wounds. These heroes kept Remillion alive until the ambulance arrived.
It's not good. I don't have it on here. I've got it on as tight as I can twist it, but he needs another tourniquet.
Do you have a belt?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Get up higher as high as you can.
I do.
Okay, pull your leg this way so they can get through there.
I'm sorry, man.
Hey,
Any more water?
drink it on.
Here,
Any more? Hey,
Yeah, just trying to keep the sun off of it.
The vest?
You need the vest off?
I don't
You
know.
alright?
Yeah.
So what's your name?
I'm sorry about this.
Who shot you, Bob?
It's that guy in the
The guy in the black truck that just about hit us going out.
Hey, stay with us.
He's gone.
You okay?
Stay away. Anybody got a napkin? Wipe his face off a little bit.
They got a tourniquet on.
Yeah, we got 2.
We got a hell.
As best as we could do. If you got something better, then
I've got
he shot right here.
You okay?
So
So how'd you get shot?
This guy right here has all the
Can I
info.
lean back a little bit?
Huh? Lean back?
Lean back.
Just don't go out on us.
Is that good?
Okay.
You want to go up a little bit more? Or
The
you
guy that was in the blue shirt, chopped him.
Put it right down here.
Yeah, well, because I was starting to shoot.
Stay with me, dude.
Stay up. Hey, water.
But I was terrified.
Because you let me know if you need ambulance.
You okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna need everybody here. This is gonna be a state trooper that's been shot.
Remillion is currently recovering well with the help of his fellow officers and the community that's rallied around him.
He's right here.
For the first time, Jimmy and Jessica Alexander, Taylor Hall, and Officer Adam Arnold reunited with Trooper Remillion. At the State Police Training Academy on Thursday, they were honored with the Meritorious Achievement Award, the highest honor KSP can give a civilian. It's an award that's not been handed out in years.
I believe that there are moments in life.
But that's about where the good news ends, I'm afraid. House threw all caution into the wind. There was no turning back now that he'd shot a cop, on top of all of the other charges he was facing. Police's habit of ignoring him just changed drastically. House knew that his ex and their children attended the Richmond Road Baptist Church every Sunday, so that's where he went. If he was going to go down, he was going to take them with him. Or maybe he wanted to kidnap them and go on the run. Maybe he had no plan at all, and he was just following his years-long obsession because he'd been fixated on this poor woman for all these years. Who knows what he was thinking in the midst of all that chaos? House proceeded to drive the 12 miles to Richmond Road Baptist Church and walked in during the middle of service. According to witnesses, he walked in and told the congregation, "I'm looking for the mother of my children." When none of the confused churchgoers answered him and he couldn't see the people he was looking for, House simply said, "Well, someone's going to have to die then." And then he opened fire, discriminately shooting into the church with no specific target anymore. Somewhere in between the panicked screams and mad scramble of the people to get under the benches, he aimed toward the front, where Pastor Jerry Gum was still at the head of the congregation, shooting him in the cheek. Beverly Gum, the pastor's 72-year-old wife, was also hit. She died at the scene. Next to her was their daughter Christina Combs and their son-in-law Randy Combs. Both of them were hit. Christina succumbing to her wounds shortly after, and Randy suffered critical injuries, leaving their 4 children without a mother and now a permanently disabled father. Pastor Gum also survived the assault.
The doctor said if the bullet hadn't been stopped by my tongue, it would have gone crazy in my head and I would have been dead. I think the Lord had a lot to do with that.
It seems that House's ex-partner and her kids were not in attendance, so at least they were spared whatever hell House had planned for them. When House walked out of the church, he was met head-on with the Kentucky State Police. After he'd shot the trooper during the traffic stop, just about every patrol car available was deployed to look for him. House opened fire on them too, but this time he was outnumbered and outgunned by a long shot. They unloaded on him, striking him multiple times. Guy House did not survive the shootout, and he did not get enough time to hurt another trooper or passerby, culminating in a death toll of 3, with 3 more people critically injured. Now, you might ask yourself, why even bring this case up? Another mass shooting in the USA is a weekly event by now, and the culprit is dead. Why not focus on the victims or the other shooters that have been convicted for their crimes? Because it's the same conversation that we had with the Inya Zarutska and DeCarlos Brown case, the man who killed the Ukrainian refugee by stabbing her in the chest on a crowded train. Both House and Brown had rap sheets longer than my arm. Both were proven to be dangerous, mentally unstable, and deeply disturbed human beings, time and time again. And both of them should have been in jail when their heinous acts were committed. Brown got off on extremely violent crimes so many times that I wouldn't have believed it was even possible if I didn't see all of his mugshots. Just to be let out onto the streets again by a broken justice system. House was actively driving a stolen car for 9 whole days. His former girlfriend begged police for help. She gave them all of the proof needed to know that he was armed, unstable, and extremely dangerous. But not only did they choose not to waste their time on him, they allowed him to travel with guns and a vehicle that they never even reported stolen. They actively placed a violent criminal's comfort above that of a victim that was in direct danger of his repeated attempts to harm her. And now, they're acting like this came out of nowhere, that this was some unfortunate event that no one could have prevented. This is exactly what boils my brain. People are dying at the hands of individuals that have consistently proven that they are capable of injuring and killing innocent people multiple times, yet they're let loose on the public every single time. Why? We can argue that they needed mental health resources and rehabilitation programs, but that's not really what infuriates me. These are killers, pure and simple. They should have been locked up, and the places where they are locked up don't even have to be cushy resorts. Heck, just getting them clean, medicated, out of reach of innocent victims would have been enough. But no, almost every one of the mass shooters and public rampage killings we've heard about in the last 5 years have been multi-offenders that had no business being out in public. Our justice system and the prison system needs to step up, and the resources needed to prevent those who suffer from serious mental health problems from getting to the point where they are completely at the mercy of the addictions and delusions needs to intervene at an early age. In 2024, we had 586 active shooter and mass shooting cases, resulting in 711 killed and more than 2,000 wounded. They happened in schools, churches, on crowded streets, at concerts, and in grocery stores. Knives, bombs, and guns wielded by people who majority had extensive criminal records and a clear escalation in their unpredictable and dangerous behaviors. The USA is not okay. We've got a problem that's been raging since the 90s and has gotten worse and worse every year. This isn't a race problem, it's not a religion problem, and it's not a political problem. This is a nationwide spread disease that has a cure, but that cure's not being utilized. We need to stand together. You need to speak up if you know something. And most of all, our justice system needs to put their politics and opinions aside. They need to put their time, resources, and care behind the people, both for the victim and the perpetrators. Make our public places safer and charge the guilty with the appropriate sentences and resources long before they snap and unleash the full scale of their madness onto our kids, our neighbors, and our families. As you can probably tell, I'm frustrated, angry, and utterly devastated to hear of yet another case where the culprit had every reason to be behind bars, but instead, 3 people died, 3 others were permanently maimed, and dozens were scarred for life. This time around, I'm not asking for opinions or for anyone to be furious alongside me. Instead, I ask that all of our viewers be vigilant, that you love and support those around you before it's too late. To realize that most of the time, that support means to make the tough decisions, to report, to talk, and to warn anyone you can when the red flags appear. Stand together and be united to fix this plague from within, because the suits sure haven't been able to fix it from the outside. I truly believe that love and conversations can save more lives than any institution or law. Love one another. Stay safe, people. See you in the next one.